How much money have you spent on scent elimination products that a $5 jar of Vicks VapoRub from the medicine cabinet does the same job as? Because there is a reason old-timers have been rubbing mentholated ointment on their boots and collars for 40 years, and nobody in the scent control aisle wants to talk about it. Vicks VapoRub is not a deer attractant. It is not a scent eliminator. It is a cover scent and a curiosity trigger that costs roughly a dime per application and does two specific things that most commercial products, costing 10 to 50 times more, also do, just with fancier packaging. I have been testing it alongside commercial products for 3 seasons on properties in Texas, North Carolina, and on my home ground, and the results were honest enough that I stopped pretending the expensive bottles in my pack were doing something the Vicks was not. Before we start, I want to be clear about what Vicks cannot do, because if I oversell this, you will try it once, get busted by a doe at 30 yards, and write off the whole idea. Vicks VapoRub does not eliminate your scent. Nothing eliminates your scent. A whitetail has roughly 297 million olfactory receptors. For comparison, you have about 5 million. No product on earth, not dead downwind at $15. Not scent suits at $300, not ozone generators at $400, makes you invisible to that nose. What a cover scent does is layer a strong competing odor over your human signature, so the deer's brain has to sort through more information before identifying you as a threat. It buys you time, sometimes a few seconds, sometimes enough for a shot. That is what Vicks does. If you have used Vicks in the field, I want to hear whether your experience matches mine. Stay until the end, because the 9th thing on this list is the one application method that turned a mediocre cover scent into something I now use on every single sit, and it has nothing to do with where you rub it. Thing number 1, the active compounds in Vicks VapoRub are menthol, camphor, and eucalyptus oil. Menthol's extracted from peppermint. Camphor comes from the camphor tree. Eucalyptus oil comes from eucalyptus leaves. All 3 are volatile organic compounds that evaporate readily at body temperature, which means they produce a continuous scent plume from the moment you apply them. The petroleum jelly base slows the evaporation rate compared to a liquid spray, which gives you a longer effective window per application. Roughly 4 to 6 hours in my experience, depending on temperature and humidity. A liquid cover scent spray, Nose Jammer at $12 for example, delivers a strong initial burst but fades faster because the arc barrier evaporates within the first hour. The Vicks base releases slower because the petroleum jelly acts as a time release mechanism. Same concept as mixing an attractant scent with petroleum jelly to extend its life on a drag rag. The delivery system is as important as the active ingredient, and the delivery system in a $5 jar of Vicks is better for sustained release than most hunting-specific sprays on the market. Thing number 2, deer investigate menthol and eucalyptus out of curiosity, not attraction. These compounds do not exist naturally in North American whitetail habitat. A deer that encounters menthol on a thermal does not smell food. It does not smell another deer. It smells something it has never encountered before, which triggers the same curiosity investigation response I have described in previous videos about anise oil and garlic powder. The deer approaches cautiously, head up, testing the air, trying to identify the source. That investigation window lasts 30 to 60 seconds on my cameras before the deer either commits to the approach or categorizes the smell as non-food and moves on. In 3 seasons of testing, roughly 6 out of 10 deer that encountered the Vicks scent plume on my cameras paused and investigated. The other 4 registered it, turned their heads, and continued on their original path. None bolted. That 60% investigation rate is comparable to what I saw with anise oil and slightly better than vanilla extract, which pulled about 50% investigation on the same corridors. I want to be clear about the difference between investigation and attraction, because the two get confused constantly in hunting videos. Attraction means the deer changes its travel path to approach the scent source. Investigation means the deer pauses on its existing path, tests the air, and sometimes takes a few steps toward the source before continuing. Vicks produces investigation, not attraction. The deer does not alter its route to find you. It hesitates when it crosses the scent plume. That hesitation is what you are hunting. A deer that pauses broadside at 20 yards for 10 seconds because it is trying to identify an unfamiliar scent is a deer you can shoot. A deer that walks past your stand without pausing is a deer you might not get drawn on in time. The investigation response is not as dramatic as attraction, but it is more reliable because it does not depend on the deer being in a specific biological state like rut or mineral craving. Curiosity works in September. Curiosity works in January. Curiosity works on bucks and does equally. That consistency is why I keep using it. Thing number 3. The petroleum base matters more than the menthol. Most hunters who try Vicks apply a dab under their nose and call it done. That application treats it like a personal comfort product, not a hunting tool. The petroleum jelly base is what makes Vicks superior to liquid sprays for one specific purpose, which is boot sole application. A thin smear of Vicks on the bottom of your boots before walking to your stand deposits a petroleum-based scent trail that does not evaporate as quickly as water-based cover sprays. On a cool morning, a Vicks boot trail stays detectable at ground level for roughly 2 to 3 hours compared to 30 to 45 minutes for a water-based spray. That means your entry trail, which is the path you walk to your stand and the single biggest source of ground level human scent on your hunt, stays masked longer. This is not theory. An old-timer in the Texas Hill Country, that live oak and cedar brake country west of San Antonio, where the terrain is rocky and the thermals are unpredictable, told me he has been putting Vicks on his boot soles since the 1980s. He said he does not know the science. He just knows the deer stopped busting him on the walk-in. I spent 2 seasons applying Vicks only to my neck and wrists before this conversation, and I was not seeing consistent results. The day I switched to boot sole application, my detection rate on the walk-in dropped noticeably. Over the following season, my notebook shows that I was busted on the entry trail on roughly 2 out of 15 hunts with Vicks on my boots, compared to roughly 5 out of 15 hunts the previous season with Vicks on my body only. Same properties, same stands, same entry routes. The boot application made the bigger difference because the entry trail is where deer encounter your scent most directly. They cross your boot trail at nose height. They rarely get a direct noseful of your neck from 20 feet up in a tree. I was putting the product in the wrong place for 2 years before a man who has been doing it since Reagan was in office set me straight. Quick pause here. Everything I just walked through, and 100 more tricks like it, is sitting inside the Buck Hunter's Bible 2026 edition. 280 pages of the stuff that actually puts deer on the ground. And right now, if you grab it, I am throwing in the 30-day opening day roadmap completely free. That is a 60-page day-by-day preseason plan that walks you from the first scout to opening morning, so you start this season ahead of every other hunter in the woods. Link in the description, QR code on screen. This is the season you stop guessing. Thing number 4. Vicks performs differently in cold weather versus warm weather. And most people get the reason backwards. In cold air, scent molecules move slower and stay closer to the ground. That means the menthol plume from your Vicks application sits in a tighter, more concentrated band at deer nose height, roughly 3 to 4 feet off the ground, instead of dispersing upward and thinning out. A concentrated plume is a more effective masking layer than a dispersed one because the competing scent stays strong enough to interfere with scent identification for longer. In warm weather, the menthol evaporates faster and disperses wider, which means it covers a larger area but at a weaker concentration. My experience matches this. On cold mornings below 35 degrees, deer on my cameras passed within 15 to 20 yards of my entry trail, roughly the distance from a pitcher's mound to home plate, without reacting. On warm afternoons above 60 degrees, the same application on the same trail got reactions at 25 to 30 yards, head up, testing the air, before the deer committed to crossing. The cold weather application was noticeably more effective at close range. I should add that in extreme cold below about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, the petroleum jelly base stiffens and the menthol release slows almost to a stop. The product still works, but the scent output is reduced. On those bitter cold mornings, I warm the jar in my truck for 10 minutes with the heater running before applying, which softens the base and restores the normal evaporation rate. A cold jar of Vicks is just petroleum jelly with a faint smell. A warm jar of Vicks is an active scent dispenser. I made the mistake of applying stone-cold Vicks to my boots on a 12-degree morning and getting essentially 0 scent output for the first hour of the sit. After that, I kept the jar in my jacket pocket against my body to maintain warmth. Thing number 5. 1 jar covers everything. And the cost math is embarrassing when you add it up. A $5 jar of Vicks VapoRub contains roughly 50 applications worth of product at the amount I use per hunt. That is 10 cents per hunt. A bottle of dead Downwind field spray at $15 gives you roughly 10 to 12 applications. That is $1.20 to $1. 50 per hunt. A scent lock suit runs $300 and needs to be reactivated in a dryer after every 3 to 5 uses to maintain its activated carbon effectiveness. Over a 30-hunt season, the Vicks cost $3. The spray cost $37 to $45. The suit costs $300 plus the electricity to reactivate it every week. Over 5 seasons, the commercial route adds up to roughly $500 to $700 depending on what you buy. The Vicks route costs $25. 5 jars, 5 seasons. My wife pointed out that I have spent more on gas station coffee on the drive to the stand than I have on Vicks in 3 years of hunting. She was not wrong. I want to run the full math because the numbers get worse the longer you hunt. If you buy 2 bottles of cover spray per season at $15 each, add a bottle of scent elimination laundry detergent at $12, a pack of scent elimination dryer sheets at $8, and a spray down kit at $20, you are spending roughly $70 per season on scent products. Over 10 seasons, that is $700. Add a scent lock base layer at $80 and a jacket at $200, and you are over $1,000 in the first 2 years. The Vicks costs $5 per year, over 10 years, $50 total. The difference is $650 to $950 depending on how much gear you buy. I am not saying the commercial products do not work. Some of them do. Dead Downwind makes a solid spray. Nose Jammer's vanillin-based formula is effective as a cover scent. But the question is whether the performance difference between a $70 per season system and a $5 per season jar of Vicks justifies the cost. On my cameras, the answer was no. The deer investigated the Vicks plume at roughly the same rate they investigated commercial cover scent plumes. The behavior was comparable. The cost was not. Thing number 6, you still have to play the wind. I am putting this in the middle of the list on purpose because it is the most important thing I will say in this entire video. Vicks VapoRub does not let you cheat the wind. Nothing does. If you are sitting downwind of a travel corridor with Vicks on your boots and a steady 10-mile-per-hour breeze carrying your scent directly into the bedding area, you are going to get busted, period. The Vicks might delay the detection by a few seconds. It might confuse the initial read. But a mature doe or a pressured buck that gets a sustained noseful of human scent mixed with menthol is going to blow and leave. I learned this the hard way on a property in western North Carolina, that steep mountain hardwood country along the Pisgah Ridge, where the thermals switch direction every 20 minutes and the wind does whatever it wants. When I sat a stand with the wrong wind thinking the Vicks would save me, it did not. 2 does locked up at 40 yards, which is about the width of a football field sideline to sideline, stared at my tree for a full minute, and blew 3 times before leaving. The Vicks gave me an extra 30 seconds of a doe standing still before she identified me. On a different day, that 30 seconds might have been a shot opportunity. On that day, it was just a longer version of getting busted. The wind is still the first decision you make every single time you hunt. Vicks is what you add after you have made the right wind call. Look, I am going to be straight with you. Everything I am walking through in this video is just a small piece of what is inside the Buck Hunter's Bible, 2026 edition, 280 pages, 101 field-tested tricks, and right now you also get the 30-day opening day roadmap free with it. A 60-page day-by-day plan that gets you ready before the season even starts. I do not know how long that bonus stays in the deal. But if you have been watching these videos and thinking this could be my season, that is the move. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Make this the year. Thing number 7, Vicks works as a mock scrape additive, and this was the result I did not expect. A dime-sized dab of Vicks mixed into the dirt of a mock scrape alongside doe urine produced a scrape that bucks worked more aggressively than a scrape with urine alone. Over 3 weeks in early November, the Vicks treated scrape on my East Texas property. That piney woods and hardwood bottom country east of Lufkin, where the pines tower over the creek drainages and the deer move along the bottoms, had 8 buck visits. The control scrape 40 yards away with identical doe urine and no Vicks had 5. The difference is not dramatic. But the behavior was different. Bucks at the Vicks scrape spent more time working the licking branch, which is the overhanging limb that bucks rub with their forehead glands. My theory is that the unfamiliar menthol scent in the scrape dirt added a novel element that made the bucks investigate more thoroughly, because they could not identify the full scent profile. They smelled doe urine plus something unknown, which kept them at the scrape longer, trying to figure out what the unknown component was. A buddy ran the same test on his Tennessee property and got similar results. More time at the scrape, more licking branch activity. Roughly the same number of visits but longer duration per visit. His numbers, not mine. 2 properties is not proof, but the pattern held. I should mention a failure here because not everything worked. I tried adding a full tablespoon of Vicks to a mock scrape early in my testing, thinking more would be better. The menthol concentration was so strong that deer approaching from downwind actually circled the scrape at 10 yards and would not commit to working it. The smell was overwhelming at close range. The dime-sized dab is the right amount. Enough to add a novel scent layer, not enough to create a menthol wall that deer refuse to walk through. More is not better with this product. I learned that by ruining a scrape that was producing 2 buck visits per week and went dead for 10 days after I overdosed it with Vicks. Thing number 8. The breathing benefit is real, and it is the one thing about Vicks that has nothing to do with deer. Menthol is a mild bronchodilator, meaning it opens your airways. On a cold morning when you are breathing through a face mask or a neck gaiter and the cold air is tightening your chest, a small dab of Vicks under your nose opens the airway and makes breathing easier. Easier breathing means less visible breath vapor in cold air. Less vapor means less visual detection by deer at close range. I did not think about this until a buddy pointed it out after watching me breathe. Clouds of vapor on a 20-degree morning while a doe stared at the white puffs coming from my tree. The Vicks does not eliminate breath vapor, but it reduces the labored breathing that produces the heaviest visible exhales. Small detail, but at 15 yards, small details are the difference. Thing number 9, and this is the application method I promised at the beginning. Do not put Vicks on your body. Put it on 4 cotton balls and place them in a 10 to 15 yard ring around the base of your stand, roughly the distance across a 2-car garage, 1 at each compass point. The cotton balls produce a low-level menthol plume at ground level that creates a scent buffer zone around your stand tree. Any deer approaching from any direction hits the menthol ring before it hits your concentrated human scent at the tree base. The menthol confuses the initial read and buys you the seconds you need. I tested this against the traditional method of rubbing Vicks on my neck and jacket over 8 sits on 2 properties. The cotton ball ring method had deer inside 20 yards on 6 of 8 sits. The body application method had deer inside 20 yards on 3 of 8s. Roughly double the close encounters with the ring method. The reason I think is that the ring distributes the cover scent where the deer actually encounters your scent trail at ground level rather than concentrating it on your body 15 to 20 feet up in a tree where the menthol rises above the deer's nose height and does nothing useful at the point of detection. Put the cover scent where the deer smells you, not where you sit. I run this setup on every hunt now. 4 cotton balls, roughly 5 minutes of prep at the base of the tree before I climb up. The cotton balls are light enough to carry in a sandwich bag in your pocket. The Vicks jar fits in any pack or jacket. Total weight added to your gear is about 2 ounces. Total cost per hunt is roughly 10 cents. Total time investment is the 5 minutes it takes to walk the ring. I have spent more time adjusting my release than I spend on scent control, and the scent control has produced more shot opportunities than the release adjustment. If you figured out something about Vicks I missed, leave it below. A $5 jar, cotton balls from the bathroom, a dime-sized dab per ball, 4 balls in a ring. Play the wind first. Then let the menthol handle the margins. Next time we are covering the 5 cheapest cover scent alternatives from the grocery store and how they stack up head-to-head on camera. Same test method, different products. The deer were going to smell something when they walked past your stand. Make sure it is Vicks and not you.